Hey, hi Naveen.
Hi, Piyush.
So first of all, congratulations for getting selected in ADP.
Thank you so much.
So this is just your interview experience. So we want to hear all about ADP. How was your interview experience? So let's start with your introduction first.
Yeah, so hi everybody. I'm Naveen Panjwani. To be very brief, I'll start with my undergrads. I am a civil engineer, but then moved on to an IT job. I worked for three and a half experience in services company for one of the top five MNC as my client. Then I moved on to took a break, came to IIM Nagpur to complete my MBA. And then on, I got an opportunity to sit for campus rounds of ADP India Limited. And that's all about me. I have been working for ADP for the past 6 months, half a year, as a senior product manager.
So Naveen, could you tell us about the process in brief?
So yeah, being a product manager, I'll put that into a roadmap. There were basically 2 rounds of interviews. Before that, company came in. The profile was listed on Superset or whatever your listing was. Anybody who was interested for this particular role that was floated, senior product manager one, they gave in their names, and then company shortlisted all the people that they thought that were apt for the profile, and then there were 2 rounds of interview. This whole process, right from applying for the interview, a shortlist coming in, first round of interview and second round of interview were completed, I think in 24, 26 hours in one day. From night to the next night, you can put it in that way.
Now we know about the interview process. So could you tell me your interview experience in detail?
Sure. Like I cannot forget it for maybe as long as I live. So reiterating what I just told you, there were 2 rounds post CV shortlisting. So amongst us, all the applicants that put in their CVs, almost 20 of them were selected or put down for the role of product management round one. There were multiple roles that were floated by ADP India Private Limited when it came to the campus. But I just looked at my CV and at the job description, the JD as we say, and I found that product management was one role that actually gelled up pretty well, fit in the puzzle pieces really nicely. I had the best shot, that's why I put it in, and fortunately, my CV was shortlisted. And as part of round one, so starting off with round one, they did start with the very basic question, tell us about yourself, and it can be very different ways. I don't exactly remember, but it was tell us about yourself. Then they did, point out the experience that I had in summer internships. Then they immediately switched to technical questions. So when I say technical questions, they started off with, I remember this distinctively. What is your favorite product? And I, being the half year online MBA kind of guy, I jumped on Zoom that I know this product in and out. And I had thought about this while I was preparing for interviews as well. I had 2, 3 products in mind, but this was the most familiar I am with the UI, the very intricacies of it. So I uttered Zoom, and then what they did was they tried to stretch on my imagination from a product manager's role in an organization. Like right from designing a new feature, how would you, what is your thought process? How would you convince, the upper management, the business to take this up? And then to put it on to get funding, to do a A/B testing or a market testing. How would you approach that? All those questions in bits and pieces for the length of 20 to 25 minutes. So the whole interview for part one I'll reiterate. This is for the round one of the interview that I had. Okay. So the first 5 minutes were about tell me about yourself. Experience from the past 3.5 years that I told, it was there, but they did not dwell deep into it. But yeah, they did ask me questions on what I did in my summer internship. So that's important. And other than that, all 20, 25 minutes approximately went into discussion on what is the product that I chose and questions on.
Perfect. So tell us about your second round of interview.
So yeah, coming to the second round of interview, it was, I wouldn't say it was a human resource kind of interview. People usually use those terms, but I don't, because I work for ADP. They make human resource products day in, day out. So it was more about how do you fit in, how would you fit in the organization. So knowing about yourself, like asking questions on what I know, how am I as human, what are my weaknesses, flaws, characteristics, and basing on that, trying to fit in myself, my persona, your consumer persona, into their organization, whether I would fit in the culture or not. And they asked questions about. I remember one more question. It's very off topic, but they asked me about NPV and IRR. So these are very core financial terms to start off with. I was stumped, like when I heard the questions, why these nitty-gritties of finances are being asked to me for a product management role. But when I researched, I was able to answer those questions because I was a little vigilant on those financial classes that I had taken up. But so what happened was, these are matrices that we often forget. So coming back to round two, they started off again, the second panel. They wanted to know, again, tell me about yourself to start off with. And peculiarly, they moved on to some questions about what have you done? Have you ever been in a role where you have managed a team? How do you manage chaos, obstacles, all that? But in not in all those vague terms, but they try to connect it to their product, their strategy, or their company's vision as well. Mentioned there was an HR associate in that round, but yeah, the other guy, the other panel member was one of very senior, I think director or in similar positions that came in for the second round of interview. So you can imagine the amount of depth or knowledge he might have about the industry. So from that perspective, a lot of questions about how do you go about the day if you were put into this role, and have you taken up similar roles in the past, or have you taken up responsibilities as we do a lot of stakeholder management here in product management roles across industry. You would have heard of stakeholder management. So questions around stakeholder managements were very prevalent. Do you know about UI, UX? Do you understand what is user experience? All those questions. Are you aware about wireframes? Are you aware about matrices, that too?
So now, could you tell us about your preparation? How did you prepare for this role?
To start off with, there are a lot of preparation strategies that people will throw at you when it comes to product management. And surprisingly, there are not a lot of resources out there. The best thing I found on the internet, like it's a treasure trove of data. When you go to YouTube, you can find n number of algorithmic videos. But these interview preparation, interview experience videos from real-time product managers were very helpful. Not in terms of, you will never get those questions again, but in terms of mindset, how are you going to approach a question? How do you structure your answer? How do you understand the question? That's very important. We often forget. Whenever we are in interview, already everybody is nervous, and you rush through the answers and never think about structuring the interview, asking questions back on a assumed scenario. Like, consider that you got a scenario, that hypothetical scenario, that you had to make this product. Everybody jumps onto answers, but instead you should ask more questions, think about it more in a more structured manner, in a more laid down manner. Do not rush into interviews. So those were some outtakes from the video interviews that were there. And other than that, a very, very important information that you can, important piece of information that you can get out of roles and responsibilities that are published by the company. Okay, whenever an organization comes in, the R&R seems to be like 5 random things that you think of, like it's very, ye to sab likhte hain. But it's not like that. Read through every line of it. See where you fit in. If you were asked for questions around these roles and responsibilities, you'll already be prepared. You know where this question is coming from. So to be able to think about the answers, you should be well aware of the roles and responsibilities. Compendium resources that are shared by your respective colleges, institutions. You can, if you have the tenacity or the time to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, a product manager. Nobody says no to some advice, some input, output out there. Your seniors, tap into your alumni network, ask them some relevant questions about how did you go about interviews. Log on to YouTube, find some really good videos on like this one maybe. How do you approach a product management interview? Okay, so you get the idea. You all amalgamate all these resources into one, and then go into the interview. The resource that I really am very pronounced, I pronounce out there is the Ken. It sometimes colleges provide you subscription, but in your libraries as well. If you are a student from Nagpur, you have treasure trove of data in your online libraries that you can access anytime you want. So there you can go search about all these roles. How are products made? How the history of some of the biggest products out there, like maybe a Google Chrome, a very big product like Zoom. When it comes to companies that are coming in here for ADP India Private Limited, what I did was I went to their site, saw their products, listed them down, compared them to markets as well. I had the time, short amount of, it takes just 30 minutes. People think a lot ki isme 4 din lag jayenge. It will take 4 days, 5 days. Nothing like that. Find 30 minutes of slot where you're loitering around. You're having your lunch, dinner, whatever. Just log on to whatever company that you want or I thinking about. Just go to their product section, see how they have listed products. How have they scaled the products through years? That information is available online. All these resources will help you in some way or the other. Other than that, these are all tangible outcomes that you want, but intangible outcome-based questions like tell me about yourself, more about your characteristics, questions of strengths and weaknesses. All these have to be rehearsed.
Perfect. So now just we are at the last leg of the interview. So can you tell us a pro tip for the people who are going to interview for this role or this company in future?
Yeah, when you put it in that way, pro tip, everybody's like, do this and your job will be done. But again, if I had to recapitulate everything that I did, the one thing that I did most was run scenarios in my head and answer them myself. If you're daydreaming, do it wisely. So why not prepare for a role? Other than that, it's very important. I stressed the very 3 times because you need to learn about the company, go to their website, learn their financials, very basics of it. Revenue, EY ratio, how did it perform, their 5-year growth, what are their competitors, product listed. That's all. Very basic. At least you have something to start with. So those 2 things. Run scenarios, run questions in your head. How would you present yourself if you had to develop a product? And the second thing is you be as thorough as possible when it comes to the company that you're applying for. That's all.
So thank you, Naveen. Thank you. This was really helpful for the people.
Thank you.
And I hope people.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
It was nostalgia altogether. So thank you, Pranav.
Okay, Naveen. Thank you. Bye bye.